Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live stream of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. So, as I said in the beginning, before I was actually going to do this, that today's topic will be emotional regulation. The reason is emotional regulation is because this is important, and it is something that a lot of us have, but is very underrated, because with most people, when it comes to ADHD, the focus is on inattention, hyperactivity, concentration, but they don't really focus on things like emotion. And the irony of this all is that emotional regulation is a huge key to managing our own ADHD. Because if we were able to manage our emotions, it would be a lot easier for us to handle our ADHD. But at the same time, the whole point of the emotional regulation is because of the way our brain has developed. As we know, the prefrontal cortex in the brain for ADHD diagnoses it doesn't develop to the same completion or level as a neurotypical's brain. And that is one of the number of, reasons as to why we are having so many problems when it comes to attention and staying on task, remembering what we're doing. It's extremely difficult for us, and if it wasn't so hard, honestly, we really wouldn't be having to deal with ADHD or any other related issues that go with ADHD. And it is unfortunate that they all kind of mix together. Now, I have a lot of issues when it comes to emotional regulation. And recognizing it is extremely hard, because your self-awareness when you are having emotional regulation issues and you're at a high number, like let's say I have a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most extreme amount. If we're at a 9 or a 10, it really affects our self-awareness and our ability to realize and recognize that we're having an issue and that we're suffering from our symptoms, right? Like we're dealing with an ADHD problem, that we're stressing out, or we're getting overwhelmed and we're feeling extremely anxious and for forgetting things, or we're hyper focused in on what we're working on and have no awareness whatsoever of our surroundings and things that are going on around us or literally beside us. So I'm going to I'm going to read a small bit from an article that I have here. And it basically says emotional regulation and ADHD. So I'll read this out. Emotional dysregulation isn't part of the diagnostic criteria for ADHD. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the 5th edition, which is DSM-5, the DSM-5 is the reference that diagnostic professionals use to identify and classify mental health conditions. Okay, so, however, researchers estimate that about 70% of adults who have ADHD experience difficulties with emotional regulation, some of whom don't have any co-occurring conditions that could explain their heightened emotions. Children can also feel the impact. A 2016 study including 61 children with ADHD suggested that there might be a pattern of emotional dysregulation specifically connected to ADHD symptoms. Now, Billy Roberts, who's a therapist and the founder of Focused Mind ADHD Counseling, says that ADHD and emotional dysregulation are deeply connected. And this is because the wiring of the ADHD brain makes emotional regulation a challenge. So what is emotional dysregulation? Emotional dysregulation occurs when a person isn't able to control their emotional responses, which is common in ADHD. Simply put, ADHD takes away the brain's pause button, Roberts explains. For many adults with ADHD, it can feel like a roller coaster inside. So, yeah, simply put, it's not that the person with ADHD's emotions are wrong. It's more so that when they feel, they do so quickly and deeply, and are more prone to express intense feelings publicly than someone without ADHD. That public display of emotion can intensify the dysregulation that caused it in the first place. If an ADHD person expresses an emotion in the wrong context, they might then experience follow-up emotions of guilt or shame. So, yeah, it takes nothing for us, if you think about it. We're already dealing with a hard time, many of us concentrating on what we're doing, a lack of focus. We're easily distracted, we're working on something, or it could even be watching a program and something simply distracts us, and we can easily miss half that program and truly not be aware of that because of the fact that we're so easily distracted and our brain gets pulled away. So it's easy for us to have it occur, but at the same time, extremely difficult for us to be aware of that and to correct the action and to take the steps necessary to come back. So here are some signs of emotional dysregulation with ADHD. So emotional dysregulation in ADHD is often noticeable in behavioral patterns. Impulsivity is a symptom of ADHD, and emotional dysregulation can be a symptom of impulsivity and vice versa. While signs like impulsivity tend to be obvious, there are others that are more subtle. According to Beth Hanlon, who is the Director of Outpatient Services at Newport Healthcare, some of these less obvious signs might include lower resilience, inability to restore emotional balance, deep focus on conflict, and persistent negative emotion. So how do we improve that? Well, we have to label them. Improving emotional regulation starts with becoming aware of emotions and labeling them. According to Hogan Bruin, reining in your emotions and having greater control over them requires to slow down, becoming aware of the emotions and what caused them in the first place, and then labeling them. So the process often begins by feeling something in your body, such as having a physical manifestation of your emotional experience. So somebody who's emotionally dysregulated might not be aware that they're even anxious or worried about something, but they will likely be aware that in their head or stomach hurts. The process of becoming emotionally regulated includes noticing where in your body you're feeling something emotional and then expressly labeling that emotion. That's a great starting point to become more regulated. That labeling emotions make them easier to understand, which prepares you for the next step, which is creating distance between feelings and responses. That distance is where reflection, problem-solving, insight, and wisdom can all be inserted. And those are the fix to emotional dysregulation. So we need to also look at exploring mindfulness, which is honestly a big key, because then it helps you when you are emotionally dysregulated. It helps you have a better chance of regrouping and finding yourself in the middle of it, and basically trying to prevent your emotional dysregulation from getting in the way of proper communication or, doing the right thing when you're all riled up. So, exploring mindfulness. Research suggests that mindfulness-based interventions help to regulate emotions through the process of observing, followed by describing and then acting with awareness. These interventions refer to activities rooted in mindfulness that you can practice at home, such as meditation, and as well as several types of psychotherapy that can be done in partnership with experienced professionals. And some examples are like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy, and an acceptance and commitment therapy. Mindfulness is a powerful tool in emotional regulation for both adults and children. Practicing mindfulness together will help both parents and children and increase regulation as difficult emotions arise. Stressing the importance that lifestyle has on emotions, a holistic approach to emotional regulation starts with healthy routines, including getting adequate sleep, following a healthy diet, and getting regular exercise. Try taking inventory of your lifestyle to assess for any area of improvement in your usual routines. Making these small changes over time could eventually lead to easier emotional management. Try co-regulation with children. Children can benefit from calm support from caregivers as well as learning coping strategies. Hanlon suggests that parents use a warm and supportive approach to help children engage in coping strategies when dysregulated, such as deep breathing and helping them to identify and label their emotions. One of the most important tools parents can use is remaining calm and responding in a calm manner, which is promoting co-regulation. Having a plan in advance on how to help a child cope with difficult emotions or situations can help to prevent or resolve intense emotional responses. All right. So I've had a crazy journey, I guess you could say, in the time that since I've realized that I've had this problem. And one thing that I am learning is how to recognize it. Now, a lot of the times it is difficult because we get so riled up with our emotions and focused on what is happening in that very moment that our ability to step back, even if it's just for a moment or two, and to notice what's going on makes it very difficult and to continue going. So, you have to learn, and it is difficult. You have to learn how to notice that it's occurring immediately right then and there. And then once you do notice that and you're finding it, you're getting better at regulating and noticing that you're having these emotions when you're starting to get like excited or nervous, or you're extremely anxious about something and you're having a symptom of ADHD come up, it's easy to, or it should be easier to notice these things and then be able to hopefully, when you're in it, to take a step back and feel that, feel your emotions, to take some deep breaths, to just let yourself be calm and try to keep yourself at a state where you're going to be able to maintain a good behavior, a good emotional behavior. You can be able to think soundly and make proper decisions instead of having like irregular or immature type of responses, emotionally dysregulated kind of responses. That's what we're trying to really avoid. And the better we can be at that, the easier it will be, and the less, negative results that will come from this. So, yeah, I'm just going to have some water here because my throat's still kind of sore. I was hoping to have a couple of guests on the show tonight. Just didn't quite work. I'm planning on doing a live show for ADHD for October because, of course, October is ADHD Awareness Month. And I figured if I did one of these every week that it would be doing my part in expanding and, promoting ADHD when we really need it. A lot of people out there who suffer from ADHD don't exactly get a lot of support, both professionally and in a personal way, because not everybody knows, first off, a lot about it, and they automatically have a negative stigma relating to ADHD. And so they kind of make up their mind about their opinions on ADHD before they really know a whole lot about it. Which is sad because it would be better for that person who has ADHD to have someone in their life who is supportive rather than someone who's automatically thinking negative thoughts and, makes decisions that could be, bad or not, a negative complications for that person. You don't really want to have that, unfortunately. But we're slowly getting there. More people are starting to understand and starting to appreciate more people who are dealing with ADHD, and they're more accepting and open-minded and supportive towards people who have ADHD, which is fantastic. That's honestly what we want, of course. So, yeah. Anyway, I guess we should continue discussing emotional regulation here. I know from a personal aspect, like I said, emotions play a large role in what happens when we are dealing with ADHD, because the brain can't really, compared to a neurotypical who's dealing with like stress and multitasking and being able to remember what is happening in the moment, right? Like you're doing multiple things at once. You're trying to remember a task or a step, a section or a number of steps that you're doing in a work group, or even in a personal style, that kind of relationship. It's easy for neurotypicals to remember to do things and to make like immediate responses to a question or a statement, and they're able to keep their emotions regulated and think thoroughly about something before they make a response, or before they do something with whoever, or them by themselves. But someone who has ADHD is going to really struggle when it comes to being able to think in the moment and make the proper decision or proper choices in regards to what they are wanting to do, or the steps that they take, or the decisions they make regarding, buying something that they like this. You go to the store and they see a fancy jacket, or they see something really cool, like a new electronic device, or for some of us, they see a new video game and they really, really want it, and they have a hard time controlling that impulse. They're at the window, or outside the door, and they see the new game, and their eyes are wide open, and they're like, oh my God, it's the new game. It's so awesome. And they're a neurotypical a lot of times has the ability to stop themselves, right? Like it's like that inner voice going, hey, now that's, look at that price. That's a lot of money. That's a $90 game. I don't think we can afford to buy that right now. We're on a budget. We got to make sure that we have money left over for food and for bills, and a lot, 90% of the time you're able to go, okay, maybe I'll save up for it, or maybe a few months from now, or maybe I'll get it for Christmas, and maybe the price could be lower. So we get a bonus there, right? But someone who has the ADHD, and especially if they have a really poor time with emotional regulation and they don't have much impulse control, it's going to be extremely hard for them to resist that urge to go into the store and lay down their credit card and buy that game when they don't really, truly don't need it, because they don't see the consequences that are going to come from buying that game when you didn't need to. There's emotion playing into that. You get excited, you get you can't wait. It's like, oh my God, it's that new game. I've been waiting for years to finally play that game. And it's so cool. And my friends play it and they say it's so awesome and it's so fun. I just got to have that game. So that ability for that like inner voice to say to them, no, you can't afford that. We need to wait. Save up for it. Get it later. It's still going to be there. You're not going to miss anything if you don't get it now. They can't listen to reason and to the logical and the mature adult responsible way of behaving in this moment. They're pretty much, if they're really weak at resisting the temptation, they might stand at that window for a few minutes and allow it to get stronger and stronger and feel more excited, and the urge to want to have to go out and buy that thing gets bigger and bigger, and then eventually they just stop. They can't stop themselves and they go into the store and they purchase it. They didn't really think about it too much, and they don't think about the consequences of doing it, and they end up wasting away $90 when they're going to find out a week or two from now that they truly needed that $90 to go to something more important, because it's something they can't see in the moment. Like if a neurotypical, unless they just don't care, right? Like sometimes people don't care and they buy things because they just want the damn thing. But a lot of times a neurotypical who has the ability to think about these things and reason and come up with the good things and the bad things and the reasons why it's not a smart idea, it's almost as if they've got like a screen, a virtual screen in front of them going, okay, so we've got this much money, our bills have to get paid. We have to make sure we can buy our food this week, etc., etc. And they realize that despite the how cool and fun it would be to have the new game, they know that it's a better choice to not do that right now, and to wait until either maybe the price goes down $20, or maybe they put some money away for 3-4 months and they can buy it outright and not have to worry about where their money's going to go down the road. And that's something that a person who doesn't have ADHD and has proper emotional regulation and can control that impulse drive can do when it comes to deciding whether or not spending money on something as frivolous as a video game, or putting it away to pay your bills off, or to buy groceries for the next week or two. It's a big decision. Well, it's not really for people who aren't ADHD, but a lot of times people who do have ADHD and they have that hard time regulating that emotion, like that urge, that desire that is so strong to purchase that, it's hard to stop them, because it's that, first off, we have such a weak ability to control our emotions that the desire and that great feeling that we know we're going to get when we do go in and purchase the game, it overshadows all the other things that are important at that moment, like realizing where the money has to go, what that are we going to be able to afford to pay our bills or get our groceries. That's where we're lacking, and we don't have that ability, that impulse control to step back like a guardian angel over our shoulder going, hey, okay, are you sure that we need to do this? Like, we might not be able to buy groceries next week. Maybe we're going to be short on paying a bill because we don't have that $90. And then you step back and you go, yeah, I need to wait, because if I don't know if I can afford this, and I'm better off not purchasing this game, because I have to make the smart choice and I've got to make sure I have money. So we can't stop that. I'm not saying we can't. It's just that we have a very difficult time doing it, because that good emotion, like that excited, that feeling that we're going to get, that dopamine feeling hit that we're going to receive, because we know the potential of how awesome this is, how great that's going to be for us to have, and then showing it off to our friends, and our friends are going to go, wow, you've got the brand new game, this is so cool. So you get that approval from your friends, and you get and then they come over and they spend all day, and you guys get to hang out and you have fun, and you're feeling excited and happy. So you get that initial, giant feeling that you get from that dopamine, and it feels awesome. And of course you want to have that feeling all the time. It's just that when it's over and you're doing your day to day, and then you sit there and you realize, oh crap, I just spent $90 on something, and I needed that money to pay my credit card, or I needed to buy groceries this week, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to now. So now you're kind of freaking out, and now again you got emotional regulation issues where you're getting all upset, and you're losing your mind, and you can't concentrate because you're scared, and that you're not going to be able to pay your bills, and you don't know what to do, and you can't think. You have a hard time calming yourself down and taking a step back and looking over your details and your budget and trying to determine, are we going to be okay? You just freak out and you panic and you get all frustrated, and it's difficult for us it's extremely difficult for us to step back and go, okay, all right, we made a mistake, but we've got to take a look, take a deep breath or two, step back, let's read our budget and see what we're doing. It's really difficult for someone like myself who has emotional regulation issues to just do that right on key. If we allow ourselves to let the panic and the excitement and that fear run its course, then eventually we're going to have a better chance at doing that. But we have to go through all that emotion and all that like panic and fear before we can get there, because it's easier for our system to allow that to occur than to stop and to ground and to think and allow ourselves to have a good sound frame of mind to think about it before we make choices, before we start to panic and get all excited. It's not something that we're naturally capable of doing, and a lot of us don't really know how to try or to maintain it. We might be able to start it, but keeping it going or doing it properly is a whole other problem on its own. So it'd be kind of nice if we had a few people who could possibly say a few things, like have an opinion regarding what's being said here, because it is different for some people. Not everybody experiences emotions and impulse drive, like controlling impulse the same way. Some of us have an easier time. Some of us can't do it at all because our brains are, like we're just not used to having that ability or ever needing to think that we had to until we got out on our own. Like, imagine if you're not even diagnosed, like you don't even know what's happening, like you don't have a clue that there is ADHD, and you're just having these regular panic attacks because the second something goes wrong or it gets difficult and you feel like an increased amount of like excitement or emotions that are super high, and you get scared easily because something happens and you don't have the ability to just take a second or two to think about it or to hold back and allow everything to kind of settle in, and your ability to think about what is happening in the moment is extremely weak. It's so difficult for us. So if someone has a real bad case of constantly getting scared and having high anxiety because of constantly not being able to regulate emotional outbursts or not being able to keep that impulse drive under check or in check, it makes it difficult for anybody to be able to think when something, like, whether it's disaster or it's an emergency, or you're having, like, let's just say a surprise test or exam comes up and you haven't really studied, or you've been slacking off in school, and teacher goes, okay, we got a surprise exam today, pens away, or like books down under the desk, blah blah blah, and you go, like, you're sitting there and you're immediately getting all panicky, and you're worrying that you're going to fail a test, that you don't remember anything, you're going to fail, you have no chance. And so it kind of grows and grows, and you're getting nervous, and you're feeling afraid, and sometimes you might even want to run out the door, or maybe you wish you'd called in sick, or you wish you had studied. So now you've got your emotions running wild, and you're getting super built up, and you got such a lot of anxiety and stress building, and you have no ability to regulate that emotion. You're feeling super stressed and super upset, and it feels like the whole world is just running around, and all you can do is just sit there and watch. You don't really have any ability to stop it. Someone who's neurotypical and has the ability to regulate their emotions finds out that they have that test. They might get a little nervous, but they're not going to allow their mind to just run and race and go and just build up and allow themselves to get into a state of panic where they can't concentrate on anything. Their instinct is to sit there and say, okay, what was this about now? Let's try to remember what we were reading. Like, it's almost like you're doing an emergency recap in your brain as to all the information that you've studied and that you learned. And so you say to yourself, okay, well, I think it was about this, and we ran, or we did a few practice exams and blah blah blah. So, and the second that you start to remember, and that everything is starting to make sense and it's falling into place, you calm down and you feel ready, and that sense of nervousness and super, like, panic feeling goes away immediately, or it doesn't happen, because you're prepared and you're able to think on the spot and go, yeah, I think I can do this. I might not get 100%, but I think I'm going to be fine, and I'm just going to have to guess a few times. Someone with ADHD, they're going to sit there and they're just going to stir in their own stress and anxiety, and they won't be able to think more than 5 words at a time, because all they're going to be just obsessing about the fact that they don't know what they're doing. They're going to fail. They're going to look like fools. Their dad's going to be upset because he failed another test. There's going to be all these excuses and all this drama that's going to build, and you're not going to have the ability to like step back, or that voice in your head to step, tell you to just calm down, hold back, step away for a moment, think, relax. You don't have any kind of way of regulating and telling yourself it's going to be okay, we're going to be fine. Sure, this might not be our best test, but just remember of all the things that we did learn over the past week. Yeah, sometimes these surprise exams come up, but it's not the end of the world. Let's just relax and breathe, and we'll be okay. It's extremely difficult for us to be able to do that. And unless we learn to be better at regulating and learn tools and tricks and helpful advice and how to ground and how to regulate ourselves, even in the worst of situations like this, then we can become better at not allowing ourselves to get into such a state of panic and obsessiveness. We can do better, it's just we have to practice, and we have to learn the tricks of the trade in order to get there. And I'm not quite at that point. I'm trying, and I'm slowly learning how to be better at it, but it definitely isn't easy. And anybody out there who like a friend of yours or your partner or maybe your parents who are saying to you that this should be easy, you should be able to emotionally regulate yourself, they don't understand it. They don't know because they don't have it themselves. So how can they possibly know that it's that simple when you know that it really isn't that easy and it's not that simple of a thing to just, regulate yourself emotionally just like that, like, oh yeah, at a drop of a hat, I'm regulating. It's not that simple. Okay. I'm going to read a little bit more on a different article that I have here. And it's another one about emotional dysregulation with adults and ADHD. I think this is fascinating information. I think it would be helpful for anybody who's not as familiar with emotional dysregulation and the reasons that it occurs, what's going on in our brains as to why this happens so frequently. So I'm going to read this here. It says, what causes emotional dysregulation in adult ADHD? A very simplified explanation is that the prefrontal cortex plays a critical role in regulating emotions. Unfortunately, in adults with ADHD, the prefrontal cortex does not function as it does in neurotypical people. A metaphor often used is that ADHDers have a Ferrari brain and bicycle brakes, meaning the ADHD brain is easily revved up but struggles with slowing down. Some symptoms of mood disorders overlap with those of ADHD. For example, people with ADHD and clinical depression both have a hard time initiating tasks. Some researchers believe differences in certain brain regions, including the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, may cause both emotional dysregulation and other symptoms of ADHD. I think this is true. In the interview I did with Tamara Rosier a couple of weeks ago, we talked about emotions with ADHD, and she stated that this is very common and it is indeed a thing. And she's done a lot of research and has ADHD herself and experienced this firsthand. And her book that she's put out explains and helps, talk about this more detail. So this is very true. All right, the consequences of untreated ADHD symptoms can also cause or exacerbate emotional difficulties. For example, an adult with ADHD who has not learned executive functioning skills might sometimes miss deadlines. The potential consequences from failing a college class to receive a bad performance review at work are inherently stressful, and they can push someone with ADHD's anxiety levels beyond their ability to control them. Repeatedly experiencing stressful consequences like these can erode a person's sense of self-worth and prime them for feelings of frustration and hopelessness. So, here's a few ways to help regulate emotions with ADHD. Preliminary research suggests people who specifically address their emotional dysregulation issues during therapy have better outcomes. Below, we share 10 emotional regulation strategies for adults with ADHD. We recommend working with an ADHD specialist as you practice these strategies and identify which work best for you. First one is learn self-monitoring. Observe yourself during both neutral situations and emotional ones. How do you react and how quickly? How would you label your emotions? Do your reactions help you achieve your goals? Are you neutral most of the time? Or is there an undercurrent of irritability? Many people with emotional dysregulation struggle to identify their emotions, so self-monitoring is the first step to successfully managing this condition. 2, tend to your physical health. Everyone recognizes that a tired toddler is a cranky toddler, but for some reason, people underestimate the effects of sleep deprivation on adults. Adults tend to cover up their emotions, however. On the inside, we just get as irritable as toddlers do when we are tired, hungry, hot, cold, sick, and such. Getting enough sleep, exercise regularly, and pay attention to what you eat. By keeping yourself physically healthy, you can support your psychological health and increase your ability to tolerate stress. 3, Learn ADHD skills and coping strategies. Research suggests that as a person's ADHD symptoms improve, so does their ability to regulate emotionally. This makes sense if you think about it. When your ADHD symptoms stop disrupting your life, there will be fewer reasons for you to get upset. For new skills and coping strategies, follow our blog. This is the website's blog. Read books about ADHD and join online forums, and do whatever you can to decrease the emotional impact that ADHD has on your life. 4. Stay grounded. When we're stressed, negative thoughts tend to crop up. We worry about the future and dwell on bad things that happened in the past. By grounding yourself in the present moment, you can avoid getting swept away by these negative thoughts. The next time you catch yourself thinking about the past or future, focus on your 5 senses and pay attention to the world around you. Consider using a grounding exercise or guided meditation. To prevent negative thoughts and emotions from snowballing out of control in the future, you may want to start a daily mindfulness practice. Okay, 5. Question unhelpful thoughts. Negative thoughts can magnify sadness and anxiety, even when those thoughts don't reflect reality. That's why it's so important to question negative thoughts when they appear. For example, don't assume that your friend must be mad at you if they don't respond to your text right away. Consider whether they might just be swamped or whether their phone ran out of battery. Giving people the benefit of the doubt is always a helpful strategy in terms of emotional regulation. 6. Consider medication. Research in this area is ongoing, but preliminary studies suggest medication may help alleviate emotional dysregulation. Untreated ADHD symptoms can increase the number of stressors a person has to deal with, so treating those symptoms with stimulant medication can improve emotional well-being. In addition, some psychiatrists recommend treating emotional issues directly with SSRIs or other mood-regulating medication. Consult with an ADHD specialist and licensed psychiatrist to identify medications that address your unique systems cluster. All right, just a few more. Add uplifting activities to your schedule. Often it is not just one stressor, but an accumulation of things that pushes a person beyond their ability to manage their mood. A person can only take so much stress before they lose their temper. Rather than allowing stressors and disappointments to stack up, set yourself up for success by incorporating rejuvenating activities into your life. If you have ADHD with anxiety, set aside a half hour each night for a candlelit bath or other relaxing activity. If depression has been dragging you down, do a quick walk each morning. Listen to an uplifting podcast or do something that energizes you. 8. Think before you act, or do the opposite of your first impulse. All emotions are legitimate and valid, but acting on them while you're emotionally worked up can cause problems. Ideally, you should pause for a few moments and calm yourself and think about your goals before responding to whatever is upsetting you. That said, your ADHD might make it feel impossible to delay reacting. If you do need to take action immediately, I encourage you to remember our do the opposite strategy. Do whatever is the polar opposite of your initial emotional impulse. For example, instead of flipping off the lady who cut you off in traffic, flash her a peace sign. As silly as this strategy may sound, it has been beneficial for our clients. 9. Build mastery in something. This strategy is excellent for our ADHD clients who struggle with depression or feelings of powerlessness. When you spend time on activities that you enjoy, you build up your self-confidence and feelings of self-worth. Doing what you love can improve your mood and make you more resilient. The more mastery moments you have, the easier it will be for you to tolerate setbacks. 10. Last one. Emotionally distance yourself from difficult experiences. Viewing emotional events from a new perspective can reduce some of their emotional charge. To employ this strategy, try increasing the physical distance between you and emotional stimuli. For example, if the heated conversation at the table next to you is making it hard to study, move to a table further away. Distancing can also be done temporarily, such as imagining how you will laugh about an embarrassing mishap when you recount your story in the future. You can also distance yourself objectively. For example, when someone mistreats you, you could imagine how one of your best, most reasonable friends would react if they were there witnessing the incident. Okay, so there's some good information. I hope that was helpful for whoever's seeing it, whether it's now live on a show or in a replay. I think that would be extremely something good to keep in mind whenever you're trying to deal with emotional regulation. Because, well, someone like ourselves who has ADHD is obviously going to struggle with it no matter what. And it is not an easy thing to do, of course. So, wow. Well, we've been here for almost 46 minutes now. And emotional regulation. If we can learn to be better at regulating our emotions, not just after the problem occurs, but in the moment that it is happening, when it is most important, then we will find ourselves most of the time having an easier time understanding and stopping ourselves from acting a certain way, like, in an immature way or a way that's going to look inconsiderate or mean or rude to someone. We're not obviously we're not trying to be that way. We're not trying to be mean. We're not trying to be rude or inconsiderate to the person that we're with or to the people that are around when it's occurring. But it's an unfortunate and, one of those kind of things that we don't always have control of, because our emotions are getting the best of us. And a lot of times if we're super upset or we're getting really stressed out because of something that's occurred, and we're having such a hard time, staying emotionally regulated and staying in control of what we do or what we say or how we react to something, not having that ability to notice and to know what to do exactly right in that moment makes it difficult. And we need to be better, we need to learn. We need to have all the tricks of the trade. We need to learn steps. We need to try and be more aware of what we're doing in the moment, rather than just reacting and not thinking about it until it's too late. Because obviously, we're trying here. We're trying to do our best, and we often struggle to the point of failing because it's just not an easy thing to do. It never has been easy to do. We just need to find ways of being better, find a way to adapt. And if we can do that, then we're going to be better off. But it's never been an easy thing to just suddenly start doing. We have to learn. We have to do it through practicing, reading about information, trying to learn adaptations that will help us make things easier for not only ourselves but people around us. You have to find ways to make our lives easier, more manageable. If you can do that, as hard as it is, and I know that it's hard for us to regulate and to think on the fly and to remember, to do things like, read a book or watch some videos or practice on our own or with someone that we know and trust that can help us learn how to, in the middle of something that occurs that could be stressful, how to learn how to manage our emotions and get better at stopping ourselves when it gets out of hand. Because often we don't notice that we're having these problems, that we're having an emotional outburst, or that we're completely dysregulated emotionally until long after the event has occurred. And by then we've already made a mess or said or done something that you just can't take back. You're not able to just reverse time and go, oh shoot, I didn't mean to do that, and everybody goes, oh yeah, it's okay. A lot of times people are going to, unless they know you really well and they know that you have ADHD and it's not something that surprises them, a lot of times people are already gonna think negatively about what's occurred. Like they're all gonna have their preconceptions, and they're gonna judge you right away. And you're gonna be on the outs looking in, because they're already decided that you're either really weird, or you're acting crazy, or you're extremely rude, and they're not going to really want anything to do with you because they already have made up their minds. So, and I realize that's unfair, but unfortunately that's just the way life is. There's not much you can really do about that, which sucks, because we have to protect ourselves. We can't always try and worry about what other people are going to think and how they're going to act and respond to whatever we say or do. We have to take care of our own, our own sides. We have to be responsible and take ownership for our own behaviors and what we say and do in the moment. And that's where emotional regulation is so important for us, because if we can do that and we can maintain that on a regular basis, then we're looking after ourselves, and there's no reason or excuse for people to judge us or to think that we're out of control or mean or crazy. Like, it's up to us to do the right thing and to take care of our own health, not worry about what other people are thinking and how they're going to react or say to us at any point. So we just have to do what's best for us, not worry about what other people think. Wow. Okay. I think I'm going to end it here right now. I know that we had some people that came on the show and were watching and listening to what I was talking about. So thank you to those that came on and stuck around for a while and paid attention. Were able to stay and watch my show. And I hope that everybody who did come on enjoyed listening to it. Of course, this will be on a replay. And if you didn't catch it live, you can catch it later on, and hopefully then you'll be able to, get some helpful information from this. So if you want to contact me and you have any questions or you have a statement regarding this episode, then you can definitely contact me. My Twitter account, it's at ADHD and CPTSD. If you want to email me, you can email me. It's livingwithadhdandcptsd@gmail.com. I will definitely respond. If you find my podcasts and this show really exciting and you think it's helpful and benefits you a great deal, then you can become a member at my Patreon page, patreon.com/livingwithadhdandcptsd and CPTSD. And you can become a member. There's about 3 different levels you can go. The best one, in my opinion, would be the loyal membership. And for every 3 months that you are a member, then you get a free like a new merchandise item. You start off with a sticker, and then you get a mug, and then there's a t-shirt. And then at a year's end, you get a nice free black hoodie with my logo on it, which I think is fantastic. So join up. You get all kinds of special membership bonuses, like you get free access to bonus bonus episodes. You get early access, and of course there's the merchandise. Now, if you would rather donate to the show, you can go to ko-fi.com/livingwithadhdand and CPTSD, ko-fi.com/livingwithadhdand and CPTSD. My podcast, of course, is on Apple, and you can go there and look for Living with ADHD and CPTSD, and you'll find it there. I'm on all the other platforms as well: Google, iHeart, Spotify. There's a few more out there that you can find me on. And I've got many, many episodes, and I am in my second season currently. And I put out 2 episodes each week, one for ADHD on the Friday, and then one Saturday for CPTSD. And I've had a lot of people who enjoy my podcasts, and they find them very inspirational and really helpful. And they like having someone who's not afraid to speak out about their struggles with their conditions. And I'm just putting this out so that other people like myself will have a voice to listen to, and hopefully will feel less scared to talk about their own ADHD or CPTSD with people that they know, or even if they just come out on Twitter or a website and talk about it with people and get some help and be heard. That's, to be honest, that's really what people just want, is to be listened to and to feel validated and hopefully get some advice and some help along the way. All right. Well, that's it for today's episode, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will put this audio of the live stream on my podcast. So if you miss this, then you can definitely catch it on my podcast, or you can go to my YouTube page because it's live on there. And you can go to my website, of course, and find it there as well. All right, everyone. Have a great evening, and I shall talk to you later. Bye for now.